Hey, everybody, welcome to Module 2. I hope you had a great first week. I hope that things went really well for you. I noticed that, it looked like some of you, this is like your first time in the Ivy Learn environment, especially in an online class. And so I hope that, we've got all the bugs and everything worked out. It is pretty self-explanatory. It does run pretty smoothly. These modules are pretty well constructed. But it does take a little bit of getting used to. And I hope that you are able to kind of have a better feel for this as you go into module two. Module two is where we really start to dive into the content. One kind of set us up with some basics, and part two now gets into what do you do with the reading. Okay, so you've got this piece of information. What do you do with it, and how do you respond to this? Now, this is something that you're going to do a lot in your other classes. A lot of your other classes are going to give you some sort of material to be reading. It might be a chapter in a textbook, it might be an article, it might be a review of some sort of procedure policy plan, it might be an action plan. And the idea is that your response to this has to be educated, okay? Meaning that you have to understand what you got, what the material is here. And then your response has to be a legitimate response and not just it was the right answer, but it was constructed in a way that helps your reader, your audience, understand where you're coming from. So, module two, summarizing what they say. And think about this: when you get somebody's text and you said, "I just read this piece of work," the question is, what did they say? And then, what did they say? Right? It's this idea of not just what the words say, but what do they really mean? What was it about what they said and how they said it, and what can you take away from that? So, in the overview here, we start with this idea of how does this work? In the second paragraph here, a careful, rational, critical reader will instead listen. They will earnestly and seriously think about the whole message a writer is communicating, giving consideration to the writer's whole range of ideas and how the information, details, and expressions of argument that the writer may fit or fails to fit with the whole message. So, in other words, you're taking the whole work, the whole idea, the whole body of information. Does it work or not, and why? And then how do I express that to other people, right? So that's going to be our goal for this module. We've got the big thing that we're going to be looking at this module is our first writing assignment. Writing project number one, the summary and response. And again, this is something you're going to do a lot of your other classes. It won't necessarily be called this, but it'll be here's a thing, tell me what you think. Okay. And so it's a two-step process. The first step will be what did it say? Give me an overview, a summary. Tell me what this was about. I always like to think when people say, like somebody comes in and says, "Oh my God, I went and saw the new Top Gun movie the other day, and it was awesome." Oh yeah, really? Tell me about it. And then you always kind of start with like, well, first off, it talks about this happened and this happened and this happened, and my God, I thought it was great because. Notice you give that background first, that kind of summary first. Like, here's the broad thing. Like, give me the overview of what this was, right? And then your reaction. Now, when you think of a summary, one of the things you really kind of consider is how much detail that you're going to use. A summary doesn't include the fine details. It includes the big, broad points, the big overview. So if I said, what did you do this weekend? You're not going to give me a minute by minute detail of all the things that you did from Friday afternoon through Sunday evening. It's, well, Friday night we did this, and then Saturday I just kind of hung around the house, and then Saturday night I did this and this. And then Sunday, yeah, we all got together and did blank. And so you look for those big events, those big pieces, right? That's the summary. And so, in other words, and you're going to take that work that you're going to pick, and you pick one of the readings from our closed reading theme, and you're going to pick one of those, and then you're going to summarize it. What did it talk about? Make sure that in your introduction, you start with the title and the author. Okay, make sure that that is in the introduction somewhere. We need to know that. Give us that summary. And then your response. What was your takeaway? How did you feel about it? What was the gut level reaction that you had? And why? Okay, now that's going to be a big piece. because when you think about the why, you want to be able to point back to something in the article that made you react that way. What was it? Was it an example? Was it a way something was said? Was it the conclusion he came to? What was it? And it could be something small. I mean, it could literally be just a few words, like that just didn't fit. I really thought that was a great way of expressing something. That example is really meaningful. To something larger when you think about, like, the structure or the outline or the argument that they make. But you're going to look back at the article. And when you say, I felt this, or I took this away, because in paragraph 3, and then you explain that, right? So you show that connection. So in the writing project number 1, which you will start this module, you'll turn in the final draft in module 3. We start with an introduction, evoke the reader's interest, so you get our attention. You describe the topic, telling us what you're going to kind of do, give us that overview, and then give us that thesis statement, that really strong thesis statement that tells us exactly what this paper is going to be delivering. In this, I could see, because it is your reaction, I could see first person in this, right? I felt, I took away, my reaction. After I read this was the thing I took away. You can use that. But I want you to be very careful, because the introduction is not going to be, I'm going to write a paper that details my reaction to this, right? Like, we don't need to tell what you're going to be doing. You could use some first person in this one because it is a reaction for you. The summary kind of gives you that overview of that summary, kind of what I talked about. In particular, they want you to be able to use the strategies that they say strategies that you will look at in this module. And then your response. What is it that you say, or the I say part, right? They said this, I said this, right? And this is where you really kind of give your reaction, your takeaway. Now, the big thing to remember about this is there's no right or wrong answer in the reaction part, as long as you can justify it. Like, this piece here, this part, this element made me feel this way, okay? And you're going to explain why or how that made that connection, okay? That's the big thing. We are going to do this in either APA or MLA style. You can use either one. It doesn't matter to me which one you use, as long as you only use one. There are exercises in this module to help you with the APA and the MLA style. There's also templates you can download if you're not really sure, or I can help you get that in format. Now, in this module, we're going to turn in what they call the half draft, and this is like your rough draft. And this is a chance for me to give you some feedback on your paper, so that you can kind of do some things to help you kind of revise it and get it going in the right direction. Okay. Let's see here. It isn't, I don't want you to think like this is, I'm going to mark up all the mistakes and I'm going to give you everything you need to know, and then you're going to turn in a perfect paper the next time. I do a general reading of it, and I do kind of give you some big broad brushstroke things to think of, but I don't mark every single error that I find in it. It is a half draft, which means, as it says here, 350 to 450 words. But the more of the paper you turn in, the more feedback I can give you, right? Like, the final version is 750 words, okay? That's kind of your target. There is no like automatic, like, oh, you only turn in 725 words, it loses this number of points. Is it a complete message, right? Likewise, just because you turn in 1,200 words doesn't make it an A either. So this week you're going to turn in the half draft, and then I will give you feedback on it. But the more of the draft you can give me, the better the feedback I can give you. So don't think you have to stop at 350, right? Like, you're typing. Oh, that's it, I'm done. If you're on a roll, if you're working well, if things are moving great, go ahead and turn in more, okay? There is no penalty for that. But you only have to do the half, okay? So you only have to do the half. All right, let's take a look at what else we got going on here. Another piece that we will be looking at is the closed research theme check-in. This is just kind of where you use where we ask you to the reading that you're using for your reaction, kind of give us a little bit of preview of what you were thinking, right? So you're kind of just checking in. Now, this is not worth points. It is a check yes or check no. They did it or you didn't do an assignment, but it is a nice place for you to be able to start by saying, hey, I did get, I did the reading. I did get something out of it. I took something away from it. Okay. And then we get into the discussion board. And what did you hear they say about that? So, again, using the they say strategies that you're going to be looking at in this unit, you're going to take your reading and you're going to kind of give us that they said take on it. Okay. And then you're going to respond to at least two peers or two other people with your response. Now, the initial post, this is what you put up originally, okay? So we have this looking deeply and looking broadly. So these are those strategies that you're going to be looking at. And that's what you should have in your initial post, okay? Now, the initial post is about 150 words. It's not horribly huge, okay? A paragraph will be fine. Think of it as a complete message. Like it has to stand on its own because somebody else is going to be coming along and read it and react to it. So make sure it's a complete message. If you look at our calendar, the discussion post is due Sunday night. Okay, so the discussion board's due Sunday night at the end of the module. But the best course for you and for the class as a whole is to put your first initial post up early, Wednesday, Thursday, because then that gives other people things to look at and react to. Like if everybody waited till Sunday to do this, then like people that got on Sunday morning, they wouldn't have anything to respond to, and it just wouldn't work out, right? So posting early helps everyone have lots of choices of what to respond to. Another thing is in the rubric, it does say that you were there on multiple days. Like you can't get the full points if you go on and make your original post and then do your two responses and then it all in one day. You can't get all the points because what they're looking for is like discussion boards are conversations. Okay, here's a thing. I react to this. Somebody reacts. I react to that. You just kind of keep dipping in and out of that conversation. And so one of the points on the rubric is that you are there on multiple days. Okay. So getting on there 3-4 different days and doing a response is really the best course of action. Also, it says that you have to respond to at least two posts, and each of those should be around 150 or so words, another paragraph. But again, to get the full points, you need to go beyond the two replies and go into 3 or 4 replies, right? So it is a conversation, though, that you're on, you're talking, or whatever. Thing I do like to remind people about discussion boards is that we're looking at the content. We don't need to debate the topics, okay? React to what you're reading and how people applied it, but we're not trying to say, oh, you were wrong because you believe this. This topic doesn't generally lead to those kinds of debates online, but we do want to be cautious of that because this is a civil board that we can all see. And we want it to be a safe space, but we also want it to be a place where, critical thought is accepted, but the critical thought is constructive, not destructive. So please make sure that you keep that in mind, okay? There is some information here about writing an ineffective introduction. It gives you some different information. One of the things that I always like to think of is the introduction. I have to read your paper no matter what, right? Like you turn something in, I have to read it no matter what, because I got to give it a grade. But in the real world, outside of this, no one ever has to read your stuff. Okay. Think about Netflix, right? Like how many times have you gone onto Netflix or whatever service you might be on and you watch like 3 minutes and you're like, now I'm out. Go to the next one, right? We do that because something in that introduction didn't draw us in. Okay. If you think about restaurants or stores or books or whatever, if they don't hook you in the beginning to bring you and to lure you in, you're never going to get the whole thing. or you're never going to go in that store, you're never going to spend their money or whatever, right? And so the idea is that the introduction gets our attention. It gives us some sense of what the paper is going to be about, right? So I know, oh, this is something I want to read. And remember this is the first introduction that we have to you and to this paper. All right. So we're going to be looking for things like style and tone and how does this come across? Is this like really light? Is this funny? Is it serious? Is it full of facts and figures and numbers? You think about, uh, you know, you would never walk into McDonald's thinking that it's going to be a fine dining experience, right? Because that's what it's that's the image that you have of it, right? But what if it's something you weren't familiar with? Down here in Evansville, we have a restaurant called Biaggi's. I think it's a chain. It's a fancy Italian chain, I think. But you walk in and they have this like entry lobby, and the people are all walking around. They have black pants, they have the white shirts, and they have the formal black aprons, right? And the music is very subdued, and the lights are low. You get a sense right off the bat that this is going to be a different type of restaurant. This is not Olive Garden, right? You get that sense. They set that mood. They set that, they kind of express that tone right off the bat. And that's what the introduction does for you. It evokes the reader, gets their attention, right? It describes that topic. It gives us that thesis, so we know exactly what this is going to be about. But that whole package is our introduction to you and that paper and what it's going to be like. The final big thing that you need to do then is turn in your half draft. You can submit it as a Word doc, a text file, or if you're using your Google Docs, you can just click and submit that as well, okay, after you've attached or activated that. If you are having trouble attaching this, please let me know so that I can help you with that, okay? We have multiple options and multiple things we can do. But again, you give me that half draft, I'm going to give you some feedback to that so that you can take that for the final version of your paper. That will be due at the end of module number 3, okay? So anyway, just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, I do want you to really think about the purpose of this unit. And again, the purpose of this unit is to develop the skill of, I want to take some information and I want to be able to give an educated response back to it. And that means that I can take this, that I understand what it says, I understand what it means, right? I took a good critical look at it, and my response is meaningful and educated. Because I can say, look here, right? This is the thing. If I say, oh, that was a great movie, why? Because it was great. Okay, well, what made it great? Well, because it's great. Now, you want to be able to say, it was great because it had great action. The cinematography was excellent. The way they shot that fight scene was awesome. I felt like I was right there, right? It's looking back, identifying that element, and then explaining what about that element gave you that reaction. Okay. Hey guys, I hope that you have a great module number 2. I know that this is something that you probably are familiar with, maybe not in this context or in this particular kind of format, but this is something that we do on a normal basis, okay? And it is something that you are going to do throughout the rest of your educational and career space. So please make sure that you are taking the time, you are looking at it and getting a good sense of what that means to understand and then react. If you have any questions moving forward, please make sure you're reaching out to me. Ask me those questions, share with me what you need so that I can help you out. Please do not suffer in silence. That's one of the hard parts about an online class is that since I don't physically see you, I can't see if you're struggling or something. You have to be able to express that to me. So please reach out to me, email me, say, hey, I need help with this, or I don't understand this, or what do you think of my introduction here? You have multiple ways to communicate with me. Please use those so that I can get you the help you need to be successful. Guys, have a great module 2. Good luck, everyone.